Welcome, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, to the Division C International Speech Contest. Call to order. I am Jennifer Thomas, the Sergeant at Arms. Welcome, everyone. This is a new electronic existential world that we're all a part of now. I'm excited to be hearing the speeches. The winner of this contest goes on to the District 7 International Speech Contest. More about that later. Next slide, please, Zoom Master. We're going to go over some house rules because in this space, there are some things that happen we need to be aware of. First off, please turn off your video and mute yourself when you are not speaking. Please do not use virtual backgrounds when speaking. I promise it does not help. Your speaking area is the area whoever has the smallest cord. If you wear glasses, take them off. I do wear glasses. I'm not wearing them right now. There is a glare and it really is distracting. I have observed this personally. There will be 1 minute of silence between speakers and unlimited amount of silence at the end of the contest. So after the last contestant has finished speaking, there is unlimited silence until all of the judges have submitted their ballots. If you are a contestant, please pin the timer if you are the speaker, or pin the speaker depending on your role. We have 2 timers. Summer, it's the on-camera timer. Correct? There you are, Summer. You should be able in your settings to click on the upper right corner and click pin video on the timer if you are a speaker. Also, if you are a judge and you are wanting to see the current contestant, you should also be able to click on pin video. If you have questions about that, please consult the Zoom Master via chat. And I believe that is all for the house rules. Also, if you are speaking and your audio is on, please make sure other electronic devices are shut off. They can hear you. I will now give control to the next portion of going over speaking order and such to our Toastmaster of the contest, Lyle Schellenberg.
Thank you, Jennifer. I want to go over a couple of things. Here's our speaking order so everybody can record that so that they're ready for it. And in our contests, we have assigned judges who score according to a matrix worksheet. Michelle Abolim will be acting as chief judge. And I'd like to confirm with Michelle that all contestants are in good standing and eligible to compete.
Yes, they are, Mr. Contest Toastmaster.
Michelle, have all the contests, all judges and contestants been briefed?
Yes, they have been briefed.
Fantastic. A couple of things just quickly go over. The international speeches are 5 to 7 minutes. If less than 4 minutes, 30 seconds, or over 7 minutes, 30 seconds, they are disqualified. Green light at 5 minutes. Yellow at 6 minutes, and red at 7 minutes, and the light will remain on. Having said that, I think we are now ready to begin. Our first speaker is Carlos Barrientos. Flowers give me hope. Flowers give me hope. Carlos Barrientos.
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and all guests out there. I know the smell of poverty. Vomit, excrement, dirt, sweat. They all permeated the housing project development where I grew up. When people who didn't live in the projects went by, they held their nose and they ran as fast as they could. I had to live there for 20 years of my life. I know the feel of poverty. Constant headaches. You can't concentrate because you're so hungry. A pain in your belly is stretching. It contracts. It has no food inside of it. The sight of poverty is when you flick on the light in your home and you see roaches scattering all over the place. During the rainy season, you'll see rats scattering all over the place. You see, I wasn't always poor. Flowers gave me hope at the age of 4. I handed my grandmother, Sophia, a handful of flowers. She had a twinkle in her eye and she had a smile on her face. It was hopefulness. My uncle, Antonio, he worked at the flower shop close to where my grandmother lived. He made a lot of people happy. He gave flowers to people during their wedding, during birthdays, all kinds of occasions. You see, something happened in my family as I was growing up. My father went to jail for abusing drugs. My mother went to a hospital because she had a nervous mental breakdown. My brothers and I were all hopeless and flowerless. You see, I decided when I was 18, there was 3 things in my life I wanted to do to escape poverty. Finish high school, join the military, and find a career in law enforcement. The first thing I did was to finish high school. I went to school hungry every day. Sometimes lunch was the only meal that I had in school. I had fantastic teachers who encouraged me to stay in school, to graduate. I didn't particularly want to graduate, but they saw something in me. I was the first member of my family to graduate high school. Surely my family would be proud. No, they were not. There was no one from my family that went to my high school graduation. My friends, however, after graduation, they took me to see Rocky. I developed the eye of the tiger. I developed resiliency. They were my bouquets of flower. When I went into the military taught me how to stand straight, put my chest up, hold my head up high, and be dignified. I learned how to shoot, move, and communicate. I came home with a Class A uniform full of ribbons and medals and a duffel bag full of many uniforms. When I went to the airport, I asked the taxi driver to drive me back home to the projects. He said, I will drive you within 10 miles of the project. I will not step foot in that place. It's dangerous. I marched to my home in the projects, chest out, head up high, dignified. Surely my family would be proud of me. No, it was just another day. I went to my first drill in the reserves. My squad leader, my platoon sergeant, my squad members, they gave me a warm embrace. Congratulations, you did it. You made it through basic training. You are now part of the US Army. They were my bouquet of flowers. They were my hope. I now had to start on my 3rd phase of escaping poverty. I needed to get a job and start a career. I joined the police academy at the Boston Police Academy, 26 weeks long. I held my mouth shut. I was very humble. I learned again how to shoot, move, communicate, work through problems, criminal law, constitutional law. I made it after 26 weeks. I was so proud. It was the 3rd thing that I'd managed to do to escape from poverty. Surely my family would be happy and proud of me. Not a one, not a one member of my family. The only member from my family that came to my graduation was my wife. She was my rose. The caveat of it is I was quiet throughout the whole academy, and my academy class members voted me class leader. They saw something in me that I didn't see, I never saw. Therefore, by the grace of God, I could have lived a life of hopelessness and flowerness. But what I realized, there were people all around me. All I had to do was look left and right, left and right. They were my flowers. My wife is my rose. My daughter is Sophia, the same as my grandmother who is happy. My son is Antonio, the same name as my uncle who worked at the flower shop. They were my flowers of hopefulness. When you feel anxiety, when you see hopelessness, when you see poverty, all you have to do is look to your left, look to your right. There are people all around you that will give you hope. And I hope when you see flowers, you look at flowers of hopefulness. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you. Madam Timer, can we get 1 minute for the judges now? And during this time, could the second contestant, there, that's great. Get ready. Carlos, can you shut off your video? Thank you. Thank you, Madam Timer. Our second speaker today is Jonathan Booth. His title is Inspiration, Our Fuel for Living. Inspiration for Our Fuel for Living, Jonathan Booth.
In these days, we all need inspiration. And inspiration comes in a whole variety of ways. Mr. Contest Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and very honored and welcome guests wherever you are this morning, I'm glad to speak to you about this fuel for life, inspiration. As Toastmasters, we are acutely aware of the power of speech. And so I will begin with the inspiration of speaking. Let me try this on you. If I were to say these words to you, we will fight them on the beaches, we will fight them on the shores, we will fight them in the air, we will fight them in the land. I suspect if I was in a room full of people, you would all be whispering under your breath or saying aloud, Winston Churchill. And you would be right. He inspired a nation during World War II. But if I were to say these 4 words to you, I have a dream. Yes, you would be transported to the capital, and there you would see hundreds of thousands of people all looking in the direction of Martin Luther King Jr. It's etched on our hearts and our minds what that man did to inspire a movement. But inspiration as a fuel for life doesn't only come in the form of words. Sometimes you'll find it in a picture, in a piece of prose, or in a poem. Maybe you'll find it in a landscape that your mind drifts to and you can see even as I speak. It might be a piece of music, or it might be a movie. I felt inspired down these recent years by that movie that we all know as The Lord of the Rings. Can you see those battle scenes? Can you see Gandalf and the hobbits and their friends? It was a triumph of good over evil. Oh yes, we are inspired in many ways. But inspiration doesn't need to come with any words at all. Come with me. I want to take you to Barcelona. The year is 1992, and it's the semi-finals of the 400 meters. They're lined up. One of those runners is a British runner called Derek Redmond. The gun goes off. They move with lightning pace around the first couple of bends. Just about the 200-meter mark, something happens. Derek Redmond tells us later that he knew that this might be his last Olympics. He decided that he was going to go for it. And so he kicked at that moment, and a moment later fell to the ground. The crowd are on their feet. He gets up. The stewards come to his aid. They are waved away, and he begins to hop around that track because that athlete was determined that he was going to finish the race. He said afterwards, people didn't come to watch me start. They came to watch me finish. Out of the crowd, a man comes over the fence, jumps and pushes his way through the stewards and the security guards, and he comes alongside his son. And then we see the picture of father and son hobbling towards the line, trying to get to the finish. Derek Redmond is broken. His face is covered in tears. He knows the implication of what has happened. But that man, that athlete, is going to finish no matter what. And then we see him cross the line, break down in tears. No one remembers who won that semi-final, but thousands of people remember a determined British athlete that was going to get across the line no matter what. Ladies and gentlemen, may I speak right into your home? These are troubled days. We are in this together, and we all of us, every single one of you listening to my voice, need inspiration at this time. I pray that you will find wings and soar like a bird and know the fuel of inspiration in your lives. My love from our home to your home at this time. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you. Madam Timer, can we get 1 minute for the judges? And during this time, can our third contestant get their video and audio ready? Joe? Thank you, Madam Timer. Joe Nicholson. Title is Trial and Error, Joe Nicholson.
He was a young, anxious boy. His first day of school, excited to learn and grow. The first thing he learned is you must raise your hand to ask a question and give others the opportunity to respond as well. He could live with that. It would take some practice. He also started to notice responses turning into reactions. I told you so. Why do you ask so many questions? And then the one from his third grade teacher, Miss Lebo. What is wrong with you? Fellow Toastmasters, contest chair, this young boy used to be me. Schooling for me took a different route than most. I learned 3 things in school: sit down, listen, and leave. I felt constrained by the walls that were supposed to protect me. I felt constricted by the rules that were supposed to help me, yet they left no room for error. So I thought, why try? At the tender age of 16, I found myself graduating, being I doubled up on classes. I had my release papers in hand, my diploma. I had done my time. Now it was my turn to spread my wings. The first thing I did, I went out and looked for a job. And I heard things like, Joe, we need someone older. You know, if you just had more experience. This frustrated me and then transitioned to anger. I thought, are my wings really broken? I ended up starting a business at the age of 16 in landscaping to compete with the people who wouldn't hire me. Life for me did not take off gradually. All the do's and don'ts and can'ts and won'ts built up in me, and they were the rocket fuel that was going to blast me to the moon. I blasted through layer and layer of resistance. At the age of 20, I found myself married to the love of my life. A successful business, we had just built our dream home. The American dream, right? But then I started to realize the occupation I was in, the path I had chosen, wasn't what I really wanted. I wanted to learn. I wanted to grow. The echo in my head from that third grade teacher, what is wrong with you? Held me back, and I allowed it to eat at me instead of working through it. I found myself in a downward spiral. The trajectory of my life had changed. All I knew is everything was a blur, and I was losing elevation fast. I blacked out from the loss of elevation. I lost hope, and most importantly, a reason for living. By now, I had a 4-year-old daughter and a 1-year-old son. If not me, who would answer their questions? Who would guide them through life? My children became my wings that slowly pulled me out of that fatal dive and taught me how to soar. If you met my children, you'll quickly recognize polar opposites. To Connor, everything's a trial. Connor, would you do the dishes? It's your turn. Well, Dad, who did them last night? We have a full blown out court session in the kitchen, and nothing happens until a verdict is reached. Morgan, would you do the dishes? Sure, Dad. She carelessly walks into the kitchen, and before I know it, I hear music. I come back and she's painting and mixing paint colors in the dishes. My children, my trial and error. Connor can find the smallest detail that sheds an entirely new light on a situation. Morgan, she can create the most magnificent pieces of art, like a wild sunset scattered in the evening sky. In these turbulent times I find myself in, I'm reminded how I can rise above. You may not have children like me. You may not have been affected like I have been by this pandemic. Loss of job, loss of everything I've worked for. And I sit back and I think, can I sit here behind an obstacle, or can I look on the other side for opportunities? I find a balance between trial and error as the wings that give me the ability to take on the headwinds, rise above the obstacle to see the opportunities. Who, what, where is your trial and error? There will be people in your life who will try you. There will be errors in your life that will completely change the trajectory of your life. I believe when we find the balance between trial and error, it gives us the ability to rise above the obstacles, to see the new opportunities, and the greatest gift of all, an entirely new perspective above the hustle and bustle of life. That's what my Toastmasters journey has taught me. Look at where you can improve, implement it, and repeat it over and over. I believe there are no real errors in life, only lessons learned. And growth is a process of trial and error. Trial and error. Contest chair.
Thank you. Now, Madam Timer, will you give us 1 minute for the judges, please? And Quinn, make sure you get your sound on. Thank you, Madam Timer. Our next contestant is Quinn Wynn. Her title is Joy in the Ocean Waves. Joy in the Ocean Waves. Quinn Wynn.
Who loves going to the beach? Do you like ocean waves? When I was very young, maybe 3 years old, I was terrified and screamed as the huge ocean waves came. It would hit me and knock me down. But later, when I was 5 years old, I realized that ocean waves were no longer scary. I could jump above them. It was fun. Mr. Toastmaster and fellow Toastmaster, life is an ocean. It is very beautiful with many different waves. Waves of happiness and blessings, but sometimes waves of trials, tribulations, and troubles, including coronavirus pandemic